I was aiming to have a free birth in a cabin in the woods, far away from everything. I knew in my system that birth was a natural thing. I didn't fear it at all.
How did you even get this idea? And how did your family arrange around it?
The idea came from just knowing in my heart that the allopathic system was nonsense and that it had nothing for me. I just knew it. I heard that call of the deep wells, the deep waters of the womb, what's really capable within our minds and our bodies. Birthing her was the big catalyst to claiming my path. I prayed about it.
If we're not claiming our births, what are we doing? What are we doing? It does not matter. Nothing else matters. Welcome to Freebirth Society. I'm Emily Saldea, and this is where we break the spell of medicalized birth, remember what's been forgotten, and rise together into our birthright to live, birth, and mother as sovereign women. All right, welcome, Mimilia. I'm excited to have you here from Colorado, but currently calling in from Wisconsin. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So honored to be here.
I'm excited to hear your stories in their entirety, as much as we have time for, because I know you have 4 big stories, and it's just been such a joy to have you in MMI this year. And, you know, you've had this whole process of birthing your business and attending sovereign birth and mothering your 4 children. So yeah, excited to drop in with you.
Mm-hmm. Likewise.
So take us wherever you want. You know, who are you before you become a mom, and take us into the choices that shape that first story.
All right. Well, I am born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I have always been a radical thinker. And I always, I kind of abandoned my schooling in high school and just knew that it was a false programming that was happening. And I have always had this deep gut feeling of something deeper in this realm and something deeper in nature. So I've always been like that. So I traveled quite a bit and then landed in California. And I was living in California for some time, and that's where I met the father of my first child. And that relationship was a struggle, to say the very least, to simplify. It was beauty woven with challenge. And in that relationship, I had to just be initiated into understanding really what my yeses and my nos were. And I said yes a lot when I really deep down meant a no. And so he wasn't abusive, but he was just like unloyal, and it was chaos, and I kept staying in it. And there were deep lessons woven in there, which I needed desperately at that time from trauma in my childhood that had led me to this pattern. And that was the awakening I needed. And I said yes one final time, and I got pregnant. And I knew instantly within the sensations, I felt like a wind come through me. And in my, as I'm having an intimate relation, in my mind, my actual thought was something just came in. And I was right. And thank God, because I love her so much. So I stayed in the attempts of that relationship until I was 6 months pregnant. And then at that point, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to waste my time here. I'm going to go have my baby. He didn't want to be part of it. He didn't want me to have a child. It was like a whole drama story. And so at 6 months pregnant, I said goodbye, and I went back to Puerto Rico to give birth with my mom and my sisters in my homeland. And I was aiming to have a free birth in a cabin in the woods, like far away from everything, because I knew in my system that birth was a natural thing and that I could do it, and I didn't fear it at all. I was 24 years old, and I just trusted it completely. It wasn't even a thought. I didn't even have a thought of like, I need to be close to anything. So I got ready in a cabin in the woods. I had everything I needed, what I thought I needed at that time.
Okay, wait. So what? So at 24, which is how old's your daughter?
She just turned 14 yesterday, 2011.
Did you know the word free birth? Like what is your, right. Yeah, I would imagine not. So you're just,
It was assisted birth back then. Like that's what we called it.
And so how did you even get this idea, and how did your family arrange around it? How did you find this random cabin in the woods? Like, I need more context.
Okay. So the idea came from just knowing in my heart that the allopathic system was nonsense and that it had nothing for me. I just knew it. I didn't grow up with doing the gynecologist or going to like checkups. Like I didn't grow up like that. It's Puerto Rico. Like you just like drink a tea in the plant from the, like it's, you have a cold, like, okay, tough luck. And we just play in the rain. Like we continue on. So thankfully I wasn't raised like that, which led me to feel really comfortable in my body and with whatever came up. And then my sister owned land where that cabin was. So she was my source to live there.
And so did you ever see a doctor in your pregnancy?
I did once because I was told, I had a lot of midwife friends who were learning midwifery, who weren't licensed and were in their beginning journeys. And I was told that for having an unassisted birth, that when you wanted to register your child, that they would give you a really hard time and make it really difficult. So having proof of pregnancy was highly recommended. So I did one blood test, one ultrasound, and just had that in my record. And that was it. And so I had everything ready in this cabin to birth there. That was the plan. And at 37 weeks, we went to the city to gather supplies, and I felt my first sensation. And at that point, we were 2 hours away, and it's like a trek up the mountain to get to this cabin. So we were staying at a friend's house, these two bachelors who were just wonderful friends who let us stay in their house that night. And it was 11 p.m. and I felt my first sensations. And I told my friend, I woke up my sister and I told her it was happening. And then we woke up our friend. And then it just kind of kicked in really quickly. Like it was a 6-hour birth total. So at 11 p.m. and she was born right in the morning. So it was pretty quick, everything. So I was feeling pretty intense when I was waking everybody up. And I was like, there's no way I can trek up that mountain. There's just no way. Like I can't even get in this car. I don't even want to think about a car. And so the friend was like, well, I said to the friend, like, oh, how do you feel if we birth here?
Thank God.
And he was like, totally down for it. So
they're like, need a towel?
These two bachelor dudes, like, yeah. They gave me a lot of space and a lot of privacy. But what's really interesting is that this man who was like just a super dear friend, like his touch would just feel so soothing to me in some interesting cosmic way. He just fulfilled the masculine presence that was absent in my story. And every time he would, even just like a hand, like my body would surrender. And it was just this cosmic fulfillment that happened. And he wasn't an intimate companion at all. So I birthed in his bathtub, and there was just this one moment where I was in one of the guest room we were staying in, and there was this tapestry that took the whole entire wall, and it had this lion with this lioness just sitting there, like fierce look. And I was just sitting there in the beginning of the journey, just looking at this lioness and thinking, okay, this is my primal moment. I'm going to become this lioness. And then I got hot and went into the shower in Puerto Rico in July and was in the shower, and then I couldn't stand anymore. So I filled the bathtub, and then I was there for the majority of it. And then my sister, which I don't remember if I had agreed to or not, and it doesn't even matter. I was in my own universe, and my sister was speaking on the phone with my midwife friends, which weren't planned to attend or anything, but they were just in case. And I was 37 weeks. I was in this random house. My sister called them and they came. And super sweet woman who I loved. And she came and she thought that the water was really gross looking. And so she said that I had to come out of the water, which was insanely difficult for me, and I couldn't get up. And so my friend, the male friend, helped me get up. And so I got out of the bath. I know that's an odd request now in retrospect. So I got up and I was going to walk to the guest room. And then I took a few steps and I felt down and I could feel the tip of her head. And I said, I'm not walking anywhere. And I backed up and I sat at the edge of the bathtub. And she like pulled a Doppler out and she wanted to hear the heart. And right then the head came out. So she just dropped the Doppler. It like never touched me. And then the head came out and she popped out and she just put her hands and caught her because I was sitting at the edge of the bathtub. She would have just hit the bathroom floor. Nothing wrong, of course, but she caught her and passed her straight to me. And she was here. And it was the most beautiful, simple 6 hours. And 24-year-old me was just awakened and initiated to have a daughter in this bachelor's house. That was so funny. And then I was there for a couple of days, and then I migrated back to my mom's house, and the placenta came. One interesting detail of this story, I'll retract, is that I tore, and the student midwives at that point, now they're very experienced, they thought that I had tored a lot. They were alarmed. And then they said I should go to a gynecologist to get stitched. At that point, I didn't know much about midwifery. I was just the rebellious, like, I'm going to do things the natural way at all cost. In everything in my life, the way I ate, the way I dressed, what I was in relationship with was all natural things. So I went to this gynecologist and I was in the waiting room, just waiting and waiting and waiting. But my sister was in the car with my newborn because I didn't want to bring my newborn into this office. And I was like, oh my God, get me out of this office. And then the gynecologist looks and he's like, you're fine, you can go home. So silly. So silly. So then I left and went to my mountain cabin and was there with my newborn baby, just me and my sister. And it was really beautiful and wonderful time in Puerto Rico raising her. And I was there in Puerto Rico until she was 11 months old. And then I had a dear sister in Colorado. And I knew that Puerto Rico is not the place where I want to live and be. It's just like it moves at a really busy pace that I don't move at. So I wanted to relocate to Colorado. So I moved in with this friend and I flew away with me and my daughter. And when I went to Colorado, I had this gut feeling because I'm very intuitive. And I had this gut feeling, I'm going to meet someone there. I'm meant to go there. And I was there for a year and it was a kind of an interesting journey of trying to figure out if that was meant to be there or not. And I was at the edge of leaving. And then I met my companion at a watering hole. And it was just the most beautiful love at sight moment. And we've been together since. And then we conceived 3 more after.
Wait, like a watering hole, like a place to swim?
Like a place to gather, like a well spigot to gather water.
That's so cute.
From a well.
You just like would go hang out at this well?
Which I didn't even need water. I just was like,
what era are you from?
No, I'm trying to like shorten the stories, but basically we do a lot of Native American ceremonies, and my friend had met him at a ceremony. And so she had it's with medicine. So she had seen my energy around him during the ceremony. And this is a friend that I have been in a relationship for over 15 years. She knows me really, really well. And I've lived at many places. So she kept seeing me next to him. And so then she told me, you got to meet this man. You got to meet this man. You got to meet this man. And so then we were at a restaurant and I saw him. And she's like, he's here. And it was just like a glimpse. He was getting food and it was just a glimpse. And in that glimpse, I like scanned his whole self.
Whoa.
And in my mind, I was like, that's it. That's him. That was my instant thought. So then I was thinking I had to leave this place in Colorado. And I came back into town and I kept seeing a hawk and another hawk and another hawk and another hawk. And to me, the animals all have a story, all have a meaning. So I was like, okay, my attention is here. What am I supposed to pay attention to? That's the messenger. And so I drove into town and I was like, okay, he's here. And I drove up and then it was, nope, he's not here. And then I drove down and then I saw him in the watering hole. And I was like, I need water. I'll get water, which I didn't need. And I reached out to him and I spoke to him there in that moment. And we've been together since. It's been 12 years now.
Do you remember like what you said to him?
I was like, hi. I said, my friend told me about this ceremony that you were in, and hi. Such a dork. But that was it. We just talked for like 4 hours right there. And I had my daughter and we were just madly in love. So we were together then for like 3 months, and I quickly moved in with him to his teepee after that because I was homeless and he was technically kind of homeless, but he had a teepee that he lived in on this land where we did ceremonies. And we moved in with him. And at 3 months, I got pregnant. Wow. With my second. So we were 3 months in. And, but we were just the type of people, we just like dive straight to the core. So it was perfect timing. And so then I had already experienced birth once, so I knew what it was like. I knew what my body would do. I knew the type of person in my mind I am with those sensations. So then we free birthed the second one. And we took a little bit there was a radical midwife in this area, and she did a couple lessons with us of what to do if he's blue, or how to rub your baby a little bit, or what to do with the placenta if X, Y, or Z happens. Like, she just gave us a little bit of unassisted guidelines that just built a little bit more confidence. And we did it. We did it in a teepee. And I felt this one with my first, I didn't have like this whole earlier stage. It was like that earlier stage, or the prodromal-ish zone, was really short. With this one, it was all day long that I was feeling sensations. And then it really kicked in at midnight. And I told my husband, this is it. This is the day. And this was right at 40 weeks. And he's like, okay, I'll be right back. And then he goes off and brings like a buffalo skull and all this stuff, and like sets up this whole big altar. And, we do native things. So he loads his pipe and he just makes this whole entire altar. And he's like, okay, we're ready. And I was like, great, now get a bucket of water. And so we laid out some things to birth on, and all we had was a bucket of water, no fancy nothing, no fancy scissors, nothing. It was just some blankets on the ground in this teepee and a basket of baby clothes on the side. And I birthed right there on the ground. I'm a very stationary birther. Like, I don't roam all over the place trying to look for the nook and find the comfort. It's like I just like plant myself somewhere, and that's it. So I sat on the ground there and rode the waves, and at the edge of the bed, and my daughter was on the bed, and I had an elder friend sit with her there because she was 3 at the time. And I didn't want her to just sit there alone. And so she sat at the edge of the bed with her and just watched and listened and laughed at me complaining about my butt. And and he was born. And he was born super blue, like an Oompa Loompa, like so blue. And it was perfect. And it was beautiful. And we rubbed him a little bit and his color shifted. And there was no suction. It was just him in our arms, just me and my husband. He caught him and passed him quickly to me, and born right there. Super beautiful. A son.
What was it like to be pregnant living in a teepee?
Wonderfully chaotic and challenging. I mean, it was totally off grid. And I mean, at this point, it's almost 11 years. So there's like blurriness around it. But we had a little trailer on the side that had like the kitchen. And it was a really tiny trailer that we gutted and then remade ourselves. And we put a wood stove and, pretty ghetto, honestly, with like whatever random piece we could find. But it worked and it was great. And so we had the kitchen there and then the teepee. And then
But like through the winter?
We didn't do the winter.
Okay.
Like we did a bit in the winter until my son was probably like 6 months. And then we got a rental. And then we were in a rental for another few months. And then we were very honored and blessed by help from his parents. And it helped us get a house.
Cool. How does that birth and start of this family shape you at this point?
Well, the first one was like my grand initiation, like into at least a layer. Like they all have initiated me into different layers. But my first was this huge, big pull into who am I in this life? What is my power? What is my individuality? What is my yes? Like I am done saying no from this like childhood trauma where I allowed things to happen to me and just freeze. And so birthing her was like the big catalyst to claiming my path in this time. And then meeting him and carving a family together, he was my answered prayer because I was a single mom with a 2-year-old. And I knew in my heart that that wasn't my path. My path was my family. My path was my beloved. I knew it in my guts. So I prayed and prayed for my beloved to find him. And so I did, and we found each other, and we birthed the son, and prayed and continued praying and doing ceremony. So our life at that point was very ceremonial. He is a sun dancer, and we did Native American teepee ceremonies and sweat lodges. I did sweat lodges pregnant and ceremonies pregnant. And so at that point in time, like I wasn't the person I was 24 years old, getting pregnant in this chaotic relationship in California. I was Colorado version of like doing ceremonies and tending to the hearth all the time and having 2 children and a loyal companion who were still finding each other because we were only together for 3 months before we got pregnant again. So, all that dynamic was there of learning who we are and who we are to each other and grounding into a family of 4. And so we took a pause there, and it was really nice too. They played together all the time. They were best buds. Like it was wonderful. It was so easy to have 2. So there's a big gap between my first 2 and my second 2, which now in retrospect, like there was fear to have a third. There was even a little bit of ideas of like, 2, the girl and the boy, that's perfect. And then 3 is maybe too much. Like these weird little like stories in my mind that now in retrospect, I would have had like 10 kids at this point if I hadn't let go of that sooner. So I got pregnant with our third when my first was 9 and my second was 7. And here is where the story kind of shifts in an interesting way. And at that point, I had already trained as a doula. I was really diving deep in my mind of the path of midwifery and serving women in that way. I had done women's ceremonies for a long time and blessing ways. At that point, I had done a lot of blessing ways. And so I was already really deeply woven with working with women in ritualistic ways and in ceremonial ways. And I felt the pull and the call to midwifery. And so in my humble Puerto Rican poor mind, I thought, well, the best way I could learn about midwifery is I'll hire a midwife myself and I'll be the guinea pig and I'll learn from receiving that type of support. Plus, I'll say yes to being cared for, which I'm the rock who cares for everyone. Like, and I never say yes to someone caring for me. So in my mind, I thought this was my motive. I'll study midwifery through being served in that way and supported in that way. And I'll say yes to being cared for.
Are you one of the many women out there who's obsessed with this podcast, binging every episode, feeling the stirrings of something more, but not sure how to bring the good word of free birth into your community? Well, let me tell you about MatriBirth Mentor Institute, our 10-month high-touch mentorship program that brings you out of the sidelines and into the arena of sovereign birth work. This is the most powerful and comprehensive offering Yolanda and I have ever created. It's for the woman who knows she's here to serve, but doesn't want to play by the old rules. If you felt the pull to teach, to guide, to walk with women in real integrity, this is your path. We only run this once a year and enrollment is open now. The curriculum is immersive, transformational. You'll go through 4 distinct quarters. First, self-mastery, because you can't hold women in birth until you've met yourself in the fire. Then 11 weeks of sovereign birthwork training, everything Yo and I know to get you solid in your knowledge. Next, we teach you how to teach and coach. Our frameworks, our tools, our methods, all laid out. And finally, full spectrum business mentorship. Yes, you can make a real, meaningful income doing this work, and we'll show you how. Our graduates go on to lead sovereign childbirth classes, attend births outside the system, coach women, hold circles, and earn money from a place of true alignment and devotion. If you're feeling the nudge, if this is lighting something up in you, follow it. Go to MatriBirth Mentor Institute.com to learn more and claim your seat. Let's change the world together. One birth, one woman, one community at a time.
But this pregnancy and this type of care, and this is like a very dear midwife that I love, and I have assisted her in births multiple times, and she's very witchy enough for me to say yes to, but still medically minded and inclined as a midwife is. And so that was woven in, and it's not the type of care that I personally thrive in. Some women may need that, but I didn't need that. Now in retrospect, I didn't need to have like food journals or check my blood pressure so often or do blood tests or any of that. And I still navigated that with declining a lot of the normal standard care that just would happen with a midwife at your home, but it's the same kind of allopathic care. So I declined a ton of it and did the absolute minimum, but my blood pressure was all over the place in this pregnancy. At this point, I'm 37, which doesn't matter, but it's just information.
What?
And so I developed preeclampsia. And there was all of it.
No.
There was the protein in the urine, there was the swollen legs, there was the blood pressure fluctuating all over the place, the whole shebang. I had it. And so that type of care shifted greatly because then blood pressure was being checked more often. Like it was this whole story was there. And at that point, my husband, who's a firefighter, he was hot shotting. So he was gone a lot. He would be gone for 6 months, and he'd be gone for like 3 weeks and then come for 2 days and then be gone again for 3 to 4 weeks and then come back for 2 days. So it was like that most of the pregnancy, which interestingly enough in GNM, learning through MMI with Yolanda, that has to do with like abandonment issues. So who knows what layers were happening there in my psyche of feeling alone. And there's definitely moments that I did feel alone and holding a lot with 2 kiddos and pregnant. So fast forward into 42 weeks. That's when labor started. And I had done one final blood test because she wanted to do one final one to make sure everything was good. And we didn't get the results of that until after I had gone into labor, which I'm glad because it would have been a whole other energy potential in the room. I'm just the type of person who I gotta be like passing out, dying, gushing blood out of who knows where to take me to the hospital. So it wouldn't have mattered to me, but it could have been a different energy in the room. So those test results were wild, and certain numbers there, which I don't know what any of it meant, but numbers that in the normal pregnant person would be 100 and something, I was like in 700. So that would have been just a different presence and space. And not that she would have induced me or sent me to the hospital to be induced, but it would have potentially been a recommendation. But I went into labor naturally and did my own thing. And she came like around 2 and she was born at 4. And this was I didn't know. I hadn't seen in an ultrasound what the gender was. And I was so sure that it was a boy because I kept dreaming it was a boy. And it wasn't. And I was so thankfully surprised. And I gave birth and it was just beautiful right there in the living room. And it was in December, so the Christmas tree was up, and this was another 6-hour labor, just riding the waves there. And again, I'm the type of birther that just kind of gets stationary. Like I had a playlist set up, and it was just altars around, and my 2 kids watching, and there's beautiful pictures of them fanning me with feathers and burning sage. And I really love having my children around while I birth. I think it's really beautiful, and I think it's really important for their minds to witness their siblings to be born. So I'm just the type of person that we wake them up and they come down super excited and then they witness it. And very, very straightforward birth of being there at the edge of the couch and riding the waves and being in the intensity and being in the mystery and being in the wildness and intensity and surrendering to it as best as I could in the how much it claims the depths of you. And she was born at the edge of the couch. And yeah, there's not major highlights of that birth because it was just so straightforward. Contractions came and a baby came out.
And the midwife was chill?
She was like, I mean, she came for 2 hours there before baby was born. And what she does is she sets up like her station. She has like a hidden in the corner resuscitation stuff that she has rarely used, but always brings and sets up. And she had things on the side of me, which all of it kind of just disappears. And I'm really good friends with her. So her presence wasn't disturbing in any way with me, nor were the gadgets at that point. None of it mattered at that point. You know, I'm in the deep waters, and none of it, in the way I birth, none of it disturbs me because I'm just like, I'm going to birth my baby and you guys all disappear. And I'm in my whole other zone. And so baby came out and she did at that point what she really wanted to wipe her face while the head was coming out. But she couldn't because my husband has this prayer that he does when the head is coming out, where he puts the palm of his hand right very gently on the top of the head. And it's just a prayer that he does of like recognizing his children. And he just gently
yeah, of course,
touches the palm, like it's not trying to hold the head or anything. It's just like an anointment. And so she was trying to like rub her face, but his hand was there, so she couldn't. But my sister was there because she was with my 2 kids. And so she recorded, which I had never recorded anything before of any of my births or seen myself birthing before, which I have different mixed feelings about. And then baby came out and was like right here. And you can see in the video, which I couldn't tell in the moment because I'm just so in the, moment of it. And so then I saw and realized that she was rubbed her and then suctioned with her mouth, baby's face, which I trusted her so deeply and I have such a bond with her that I, now in retrospect and through the MMI journey, like it would have been preferred that I did any of that. In the moment, that was my sister doing what she thought was necessary, and it's okay. And she was fine though. She didn't need any of that. She was fine, and she was here, and she was in my arms, and she was great color, and she was a little purple, and maybe she just didn't breathe right at that emergence moment, but she did quickly after, and she was perfect. But all of those details, I have no regrets, and I learned through all of it. And all of it is woven in this necessary path of choices I've needed to make, and it's happened, so it can't be undone. And so I pick why, all the whys, I pick them all apart and all of the things that need to be integrated so I can choose differently or learn from it or grow from it. And so all of that story really showed me, one, I don't really need a midwife, like that type of midwife. I don't need that. I didn't need it for that experience, and I didn't need it for any of the other ones. And it was an interesting place to kind of analyze in my mind why I chose that, why I welcomed it, and why I navigated that path in that way. Maybe it's because my husband was hot-shotting and there was layers there of solitude and wanting that genuine sister to hold that space for me. Yeah. But that type of midwifery care is not my personal preference. And it's not what I need. So then my fourth, I was like, no one's coming. And we got this. We got it. It's our fourth. Like, this is going to be beautifully ours. Yeah. That journey taught me a lot with her. And it's interesting, like so many women will choose like the first midwife, the first allopathic wild story, and then go into this like reclamation. I was like, no, I'm going to birth in this bachelor dude's house. And then I'm going to birth in a teepee. And then third one. So a little backwards the way I got the message, but nevertheless, I got it and claimed my space. And then the fourth one was like a full claiming. He rocked me to the bones, and he really came to with the samurai sword, like, "Ooh, you think you got this? Let me teach you a new layer of intensity or a new layer of the depths of your being that you haven't seen before." So I got pregnant with him, the same exact pattern as the first two. My daughter was 3 years old, and then a boy came. The first two they have a 3-year difference, a girl and then a boy. So that's our pattern, I guess. And I got pregnant with him, and it was just so beautiful, such a beautiful pregnancy. And all of the pregnancies have their own, I know I haven't touched much on that, but they've all had their own nuances of beauty and intensities and beautiful blessing ways and vomiting and nausea or tons of acid reflux, which is more of my common theme. And just like his did, which was really rough, nevertheless, he came into this world, and I was ready for that whole pregnant adventure, however it needed to happen. And his birth, I gave birth at 37 weeks, and it was the day before my blessing way, which was like the total cosmic joke for me. Because I was like, I already had a reputation, and I still do, of the blessing way priestess who would just come, and facilitate the ceremony for women. And I had just the most beautiful, epic plan, like with the fire and honoring ancestries. And I had bought a new dress. It was this beautiful plan. And he came that night before, and I had to have this moment of mourning just so suddenly, the shift of potentially my last pregnancy, where our cup feels full with 4, and mourning not being able to do the blessing way, which meant so much to me. And I just had this moment before the fire, and I just had to cry it out and let it go. And then made some offerings to the fire and welcomed the ceremony as it had to happen. And again, we had our 3 children. They had this like cot on the floor in the living room to witness it all. And our altars and our candles and the music playing. I had really worked on a playlist for this one throughout the whole pregnancy, just like putting a song aside. And this one was a 4-hour labor total. And that really rocked me. It was just so fast, feeling like very little time to kind of adjust and integrate, and just thrown straight into the pit. Just go for it. You got this. And that one was a wild experience in my mind, more than all of the other ones. And with that one, this was right before RBK, actually, in 2024. Just a fun little detail. I birthed on Friday, and RBK started on Monday. And this one just took me in a wild journey in my mind, and I requested it from Spirit. I prayed about it. I was like, I want to know how deep this well goes. Show me how deep this portal goes of giving birth, because I know it's endless, and we can navigate it so deeply and so beautifully, and it requires so much surrender and trust. And that portal is so profound, and it can show us so many layers within our hearts and our souls and our path and our psyches. So I knew that, and I felt that, and I heard that call of the deep wells, the deep waters of the womb, what's really capable within our minds and our bodies when we give birth, when we're faced with that threshold of becoming. And so I was in this journey navigating that in my mind throughout the whole pregnancy, welcoming it. And then I saw it, and I didn't see necessarily or claim to see the bottom of the pit or have, profound insight of this portal, but I saw the layers within me given birth to my fourth. I saw the layers in me that hold back, the layers of me that are scared of my own power, of my own beauty, of my own brilliance in this life. All of the ways that I hold myself back, I saw it, and I would go through the sensations, and I would surrender into it. And as I would surrender into it and surrender into the power, I could feel the sensations coming through my body. And I could feel my yoni expanding, and I would just breathe it with a super sharp focus inside of myself. And then other moments I would retract and feel the mightiness of the power and be like, oh my God, this is too much to hold, and hold myself back. And in that ebb and flow of like the surrender to it, and then the like whoa-ness of it, I caught the message of like, oh, in those moments that you retract and you hold back and you fear it, this is how you hold back in your life. This is how you manifest not standing in your power in your life. This is exactly it. This is the same layer, the same seed in your psyche was just like a magnifying glass showing it to me. And I would fear it, and I would hold back, and I would want to like retract and hide from it, and then come back and breathe and feel the surrender and feel the energy moving through my body. Very, very detailed. Feel it all the way through my spine and feel my stomach. And then I would breathe it, and it would be this like ancient moan that came through, like, and that one really, really showed me all these layers and how I can stand tall in this life and stand in being the witch and the wizard and the medicine woman in a way that I'm, not in an enlightened, superior way, but in a grounded, embodied, present, beautiful way that I'm meant to be in this life. And this beautiful son and this birth showed me those layers, and I'm so grateful. And then he was born just perfect. And all of my babies have had the cord around their neck, all four, which has never been an alarming thing. You just unwind it and continue on. And so I was sitting back in the corner of the couch, and then I did that moment that Yolanda talked about, where you raise yourself up. You get this like energy boost. And so I was doing that, and my husband was like, his neck is going, because his head was already out, his neck is going crooked. And he said that, and so I just like propped on a knee, and he was just like, his neck was a little like that, so he just got a little nervous about it. And so I propped on a knee, and I turned, and so then I was kind of on all fours, but on the couch, like propped differently, higher up against the wall. And then he came out. My husband is catching him, and I did the turnaround with my leg over the baby and sat at the edge of the couch, and I just held him and looked at him. At this point, we were really deep in MMI, really deep in all the beautiful. We had already done Sister Morning Star, and on these newborn first breaths. And I just looked at him, and he was just so beautiful and so perfect, and he wasn't breathing, and I just kissed him and sucked and breathed into his mouth, and it felt beautiful. Like I just kissed him, and I'm just holding him like this and just looking at him, and I rubbed his back just like this, holding him, not like trying to turn him over or anything, just him facing me. And he let out a cry, and everybody sighed in relief, and my husband started crying. It was just this beautiful moment, and then I just held him, and he was here. It's beautiful. There we go. All four are here. That's kind of the gist of it all.
This is why we free birth. That story, the ceremony that you allowed birth to be, it just can't happen with medical providers. in the room. It just can't, like what you just described with your fourth can only happen in free birth. And that doesn't mean all free births are like that. Not at all. But I know what you're talking about, and that we use this term mother-led all the time and it's almost diluted, but like really, like mother-led, the pacing and the welcoming of him, and the just I'm like picturing that woman trying to wipe your kid's face while your husband welcomes and prays on this half-born baby. And it's just so weird and so disruptive, versus what you described in this like family whole beautiful emergence of your son. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. And I just love it so much. I love just being in our home and doing our weird things and just being uninhibited in that way. It's so precious and so sacred and so necessary to heal these times, to heal the disconnect of the domestication that people have from the natural realm. And I find it to be a healing, desperate necessity for us to claim our births. I know you know this very well, but I just feel you in this prayer and in this devotion to support this, for women to claim their births, for all the beautiful, intricate layers that happens, for the humans in their own relationship, for the collective healing that's happening, all the intricate layers, the things we see and the things we don't see.
Like if we're not claiming our births, what are we doing? What are we doing? It does not matter. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters as much as that.
That's where it all starts.
Yeah. So how has this shaped your clarity around birth work? Who are you now? We'll close with that.
I am now standing as Mimilia, who can offer this type of support to other women, which all of my journey has really cemented into my being that birth is a very natural. I mean, to say very is almost like disrespectful to birth itself. It's like words kind of limit how natural it is. Like we are biological humans of this earth, just like the trees and the plants. And birth is among that realm. And I have no doubts whatsoever in the birth process or in the human body, the female human body and its capacity to birth. And after doing RBK and then doing this MMI journey and here at the periphery of its completion and birthing my business and having supported a recent sovereign birth and, a couple births in a weekend. And I'm just standing proudly in what it means to support women in a sovereign way. And I'm so honored and so grateful to have come to this place and be available in this way, to believe so deeply in the human body and in birth and in our capacity to claim our sovereignty and our wildness, and to be able to, even if just a little glimpse, transmit that to someone else, even if it's just a speck that gets transmitted to someone else, then great. That's something. To claim a spiritual reverence onto this earth and help in any possible way alleviate that fragmentation. So that's my prayer. That's where I stand now. That's where I'm passionate for now. That's how I've been shaped by not just the birth, but all the things in between, and the pregnancies and the ceremonies and in the mothering of 4 children and in all the lessons that come woven with just living our life one day at a time. And all of this beautiful midwifery schooling and learning from all of the other women and from you and Yolanda and Sister Morningstar. And just, I feel so blessed and honored to be here now and excited that this is just the beginning. This is not some culmination. This is a new chapter and beginning of offering services and supporting and beautifying this world
sister.
with some weirdness.
I'm honored you're in the same lineage as me. It feels good. Proud of you.
Thank you so much.
from the bachelor pad in Puerto Rico at 24. That's a beautiful arc. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And we'll make sure to leave in the show notes where women can follow you and find you. And yeah, it's been such a joy to have you travel with us through MMI this year and get to know each other.
Thank you so much.
All right, women, I hope you enjoyed the show today. You can support this podcast by donating to it through the link in the show notes below. And of course, leaving an awesome review on whatever platform you listen on. The more reviews, the more visibility the show gets. So let's spread the good word of Freebirth. Don't forget, you can watch all of my podcast interviews on YouTube and see the women as they tell their birth and power stories. And you will also find our viral Freebirth collection of epic raw birth videos on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed. We always have a lot going on at Freebirth Society, and you can find out about all of it at freebirthsociety.com. And I am at Freebirth Society on Instagram. Please opt into my newsletter below so that you don't miss a thing. We offer courses on free birth, sovereign birth work, as well as one-on-one coaching, women's retreats, so much. Our exclusive private vetted membership, The Lighthouse, is definitely something to check out if you are looking for a community of wise sisters to get guidance from and to meet in real life. Together we rise, sisters. We must speak our stories fully, claim our lives, and support one another. This is the living revolution, and I am so grateful to be in it with all of you. Till next time.